So, rhubarb was said to have originated in Siberia as far back as 2700 BC. And there, it was used more of a medicine than anything else. The roots of the rhubarb was said to have properties to help with liver problems, intestinal problems, and gut problems. Marco Polo was said to have brought this rhubarb root to Britain in as early as the 13th century, but little was known of it until about the 14th century, when there was claims that the medicinal properties of the roots had blood purifying properties and was said to have made young wenches look a little bit more fair. The price of rhubarb at that time was said to have gone for 10 times more than opium and 4 times more than that of saffron, which was the most expensive spice. 1777, Oxfordshire was said to have taken seeds from Russia and planted them and came up with a pretty good quality root. At that time, the leaves and stalks were of little value. There was no culinary merit to them, and all they used at that time were the roots medicinally. Later on, a couple Englishmen by the name of Peter Collins and John Bantram were said that the stalks of the rhubarb actually made pretty good tarts. They said you could take the stalks away from the roots and the leaves, dice them up into gooseberry-like properties, add some cinnamon and sugar, and bake them as a pie. And it eats just as well as a tart, and it's better eaten Hannah cold. Glass is said to have had one of the first recipes in print by 1760, and it was not much different than that described in the text of John Bantram and Peter Collins. The recipe came after Hannah Glass's very first, which was the Yorkshire pudding. So we're going to go ahead and harvest some of this rhubarb here. We're going to take it back, process it just like I've explained to you that was put in text, and we're going to make a pie out of it. Stay with me. Looks pretty close. Alright, so the recipe again that we're going to be going with is similar to that of Bantram's as well as Hannah Glass, because they almost mirrored each other. So what we have, obviously, is some rhubarb. We're going to have to peel the shrines off of them, or the rinds rather, chop them up into gooseberry-like pieces. We have some cinnamon, some brown sugar. Muscovado sugar would have been a little bit more period correct than regular sugar. I don't have any, so we're going to go with brown sugar instead of the regular white sugar. I do have a pre-made crust here for the initial, to hold the fillings, and then we're going to go ahead and make a crust type topping with some flour and other ingredients, and we'll get to that in a minute. And we're going to cook all of this over the open fire in a Dutch oven. So let's get to peeling and cutting our rhubarb. It's a nice healthy piece. I've been eating rhubarb since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, typically raw and or with sugar. I have to just pour a small cup of sugar and dunk it right in there. This will be the first time I've tried something like this. So now we're just going to peel all the red skin, if you will, right off of these, and then we can chop them up. Get them all peeled. Now, if you've never had rhubarb, the reason they say it's much like a tart is because it's pretty sour, which is why I like to eat it with sugar, but I like it raw just the same. Alright, so while we're waiting for our coals to get ready over by the fire, we're going to need 3 eggs, some all-purpose flour, and some nutmeg. I've added my rhubarb with sugar right to the mixing bowl. And these eggs don't have to be mixed up really well. So I'm going to add those. Three-quarters of a tablespoon of nutmeg. And about a half a cup of flour, all-purpose flour. Like I said, the eggs don't need to be mixed up really well. So I'm just going to mix this up a bit. So there is no top crust like a typical pie. We need just a touch more flour in there. If you were doing this in a conventional oven, you'd want to cook it for 20 minutes. With an aluminum foil cover at 400 degrees, and then take the aluminum foil cover off and cook it for an additional 20 minutes. But we're going to have to play ours by eye because we're doing it right on the fire in the Dutch oven, so a little bit different. So once you get it all mixed up, you're going to put it into your pie crust. And on that second additional 20 minutes, you'd cook it until the top browns. Alright, now we're just waiting on hot coals. Alright guys, so we're going to knock this down a little bit and take us out some coals here in a second. Take our pie and drop it down in there. So like I said, guys, recipe called for 20 minutes, covered in aluminum foil. That's in a conventional oven. And then take the foil off an additional 20 minutes with your oven on 400. This has been in on the fire with hot coals on the top of it for 10 minutes. Let me show you what it looks like. A little dark around the edges, but the pie crust wasn't full. That looks perfect. Alright, so we're going to let this sit and cool right here. Once it's able to be handled, I'm going to move it to the refrigerator for a while and chill it. Again, the recipe said that it eats better cold, so I'm going to let it rest and move it to the fridge. Alright guys, so like I said, this is the first time I've ever tried this. I've always only eaten it raw and with sugar sometimes. And as shown earlier, the edges are a little crispy for my liking. They're not too bad off, but I don't like any type of burnt in my pies anyway, so I'll give it a taste test. Now it's sat in the fridge overnight. Can definitely taste the sourness, a little bit of the sugar and cinnamon. It's almost got like a pumpkin or a squash pie type of consistency. It's not too bad. A little more sugar in that bite. Pretty good. Alright, so there you have it. A little recipe from way back when. Again, this one very similar to that of Hannah Glass's recipe in Complete Confectioner. I'd definitely make that again. Not bad. Alright, so I appreciate you joining me for another video. Looking forward to the next one. Hopefully you are too. Until then, take care, and we'll see you then.